Sesi ini akan dikendalikan dalam kedua-dua bahasa Melayu dan bahasa Inggeris, ya. Alright, so a few decades ago, when video games were just starting to be more accessible to the general public, many parents disapproved of their children's dream of turning their love of gaming into a career. Now, they wanted their children to be doctors, lawyers, bankers, and viewed video games as a mere distraction. Now, how things have changed. Today, the video game industry serves a huge market and is one of the fastest growing in the entertainment sector. According to market intelligence and analytics firm Newzoo, the world's 2.7 billion gamers are expected to spend US 159.3 billion, which is Malaysian 681.4 billion on games this year, and this is an increase This is an increase of 9.6% from 2019. Now, this growth is also prevalent in Southeast Asia, and according to the firm, Malaysia's 20.1 million gamers spent an estimated 673 million on games last year alone, making the country one of the biggest markets in the region. Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation, MDEC, provides a lot of support for local players in the industry. For instance, Level Up Incorporated is a content accelerator hub for games and interactive media located in Bangsa South, Kuala Lumpur. Now, this facility houses development programs with early stage content incubation, facilities, mentoring, and accelerator programs, as well as R&D amenities such as console development kits to enable content creation and prepare content developers for IP commercialization. The agency also organizes Level Up KL, a conference and business platform to attract, develop, and catalyze the Malaysian and regional ecosystem. It is the biggest and most influential game developer and game industry business platform in Southeast Asia. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us Encik Bazil Akmal Bidin, also known as Buzz, who is the incubator manager at Level Up Inc. MDEC's game incubator. Now, Encik Bazil manages Level Up Inc. On the daily operation, the programs, activities, and events. He's also a game consultant, and he provides in-house mentorship or advisory and supports Level Up Inc. members and the greater local game industry. He also liaises with regional and global game industry players, assists the division for initiatives related to the game industry, and assists in planning and execution for game-related programs or events such as Level Up KL. Now, Buzz will be sharing with us his insights with us on the career path and job opportunities in the animation and game industry. He'll be using a lot of videos to explain his content. So, hi, Buzz. How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So, Buzz, please share a bit about yourself and how did you get into the creative industry?
So yeah, I'm a game programmer by training, and currently I'm with MDEC. And what we do in MDEC is actually we try to propel digital economy forward for Malaysia, and specifically for the team that I'm in, we handle digital creative content, and among the sectors or industry that we focus in Malaysia, specifically will be animation and VFX, and also game industry. So essentially these two are the major sector that we are focusing. And how I kind of got into the creative industry is that obviously I was a gamer when I was a lot younger, and I got to know that there is a degree program for game development back in, I think, year 2000 plus. And right after I finished my SPM, I applied to the university, and I got into the course. And yeah, since then I've been a game developer for the past 14 years. Yeah.
So, were your parents and teachers supportive of your decision to enter the industry?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it makes it a lot easier when your results are okay. So I did well in my exams, PMR, SPM, and all that. So it makes it easier for them to allow me to pursue my dream. So yeah.
All right. So for the benefit of audience, actually, Basil is actually a straight A scorer for his PMR, from his UPSR, PMR, and SPM. He did really, really well in his studies. Yeah. So he tells us that it makes it easier for you to be in the industry because of your scores. Okay. All right. So Basil, I think you can start sharing your presentation. Over to you.
Okay.
So for
Thank.
audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat, and I'll be asking questions every now and then. Over to you, Basil.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. Okay, let me just set this up. Okay. So thank you all for joining the session. I'll be talking about career and opportunities in animation and game industry. So I'll mix with Bahasa as well, so that it's easier for everyone as well. Essentially, the program that we do in MDEC focuses a lot on animation and game industry, as mentioned. But if you want to look at the bigger landscape of the creative industry, so there are a lot more than animation and games. So there's a lot of sector that is not digital. We have writing, books, music, art design and fashion. All these are essentially creative industry. And when we talk about for us, our role, we focus specifically for anything that's digital because we are propelling the digital economy forward. But we also kind of like encourage the non-digital creative creation as well, because essentially the arts and the creativity, it's interlinked, whether it's digital or non-digital. So specifically for us, we focus on the two that I mentioned earlier. So this is a sample of what we have um, for the animation industry highlights. So I'll just share quickly on uh, the video. So what animation industry is about. So I'll just play this through and I'll voice over it. So this is SIGGRAPH. SIGGRAPH is a sort of a special interest group for graphics. So there's a lot of graphics developer and researcher that actually take part of this, technology partners who actually create all this amazing technology that you see visually either on TV or on cinema or in games. So computer graphics is a big field, essentially anything that's generated, uh, any graphics that are generated through computers are considered computer graphics. So it can be 2D, it can be 3D, it can be motion, it can be static images, it can be realistic, it can be cartoony, it can be black and white, it can be colorful. So everything is possible within this kind of like expression of creative through digital platform. So there's a lot of creation that you've seen that been adopted into different mediums that you consume, be it on YouTube, on cinema, on TV, and everything as well. And all this innovation essentially propel the industry forward, as the researchers will typically share white papers over the technology that they do, and other research will help to develop that further. Okay, I'm gonna skip through a bit. Yeah. So let's move on. That's the sort of animation and VFX industry. Let's move to the game industry highlights. So both of these industries kind of interlinked. So this is a video from 2017, just to share the kind of work that the global industry has been doing in terms of games specifically. So obviously there's 3D games, there's 2D games, there's different platform for games, especially desktop, console, and there's also mobile. So yeah, students create innovative projects. You can create yours as well. And there's VR, there's cinematic, there's a lot of different kind of application of game technology to create different content, such as this project from NASA. So it's a very unique using game engine technology to actually create content for their research. Yep. They also research on medical simulation for doctors training and all that as well. So yep, there's plenty of content being created through game technology, and uh, in fact, because of the advantage of doing real time, there's a lot of innovations happening in the game industry at the moment. Moving on, I will need to reshare my screen because I think I need to connect the audio again. Give me a moment. The next video will be from Pixar, and that's quite important because it talks about the animation industry. And forward of that, we'll follow up with Ubisoft video talking about the kind of jobs that exist in this two industry, animation and games.
So, Buzz, in the video that you're going to share, what are the key points that students need to look out for?
Yeah, essentially there's a variety of jobs, and that's something that I think yeah, the students can look at this a role for everyone essentially. So that's something that I think if you cannot draw, there's still jobs for you in the animation industry. Play the video. And I check if the audio playback. Okay, let me double check. Okay, let's try this again. We're here on the technical side of things. I'm Alex. I work here on your art story side of things. This box will introduce you to some of the fundamental skills we use to make our movies. There's examples of real-life film challenges that show how an artist's idea can create a tidal wave of technical creativity, and how technical advances can inspire artists to think of new ideas. We will approach by this showing artists, scientists, animators, coders, sculptors, all kinds of different people. And the thing is, most of these skills you may already be learning in school. But here in the box, you can see how we use those skills to make cool stuff. Before we dive into these lessons, you should see how it all fits together inside Pixar, the real Pixar. Check it out. At Pixar, on any given day, we're working on various stages of many films. It all begins with an idea. For example, Toy Story. It started like this. When kids leave the room, the toys come to life. See, I always knew that my toys did that. Film starts in a story. Along with the director and the writer, we figure out what happens using simple drawings. It's kind of like a comic book. Exactly. And while we're drawing, we're
and their team start designing the world and the characters. While they're painting and drawing and sculpting, our storyboards go to the editorial, where they string together all the drawings that we've created. We time them out, add music, dialogue, and sound effects. As these shots go through each stage of production, we'll update this scene over and over again. And this is what the science and the math find. What's next? Pipeline. We're ready to start making the film you'll see in the theater, and this happens in a particular order. It's time for our technical artists to figure out how to create the movie in the computer. I've been here for 9 years, and I still have no idea how you guys turn our drawings into the film. To be honest, it's these steps on every movie. Hey, Galen. You've been here since Toy Story. What's been hard on each film? Well, Toy Story, everything. Here, let me show you. On Toy Story, we fermented the entire process from scratch. Monsters Incorporated, certain clothing. On cars, we selected metal surfaces. On every film, there's a new technical challenge. On Inside Out, we had to deal with a character made of blind particles. And it took lots of people to figure out just that one thing. Whoa, what was she made of? Her shape would be made of points and particles of light. She was tough. This is the 70s version. And the characters have to move, so some has to add control to the model. Like a puppet, right? Yes, it's strings. Our animators will use a computer program to move the characters in the digital world. Next is the pipeline. Steps. So for cars, you built the entire city of London. We needed a huge chunk of the city because major needs speed through it. So we figured out how to grow buildings with enough variation for the wheels of the real. And we went through that set with our virtual cameras. Next up, animation. I do know what the animators do. They bring the characters to life. You see how she's moving their clothes and hair are missing? Adding and moving those elements is going to be someone else's job further down the pipeline. And by somebody else, I mean me, and about 20 other simulation technical artists. Where are you getting all these shirts? We have to build everything you see, including the textures and surfaces, to help make the world and characters believable. Next up, lighting. Ironically, it's really dark in the lighting department. So when you start, there are no lights. No. Any source of light is something we have to add into the scene. In this shot alone, there are 230 lights. Last up, the render chart. A film is really a series of images, or frames. There's 24 every second. This is where we make the frames. Everything comes together here. All the art, math, and the science. A single frame can take more than 24 hours to render. And that's just one frame. And that's assuming we don't run into any snags. Wow. It's incredible seeing final shots. And now that I know how they're made, even cooler. So that's the tour. And the next step is to jump back into the box to choose the lesson. What do you want to try? Well, this one building robots using combinatorics. That was pretty cool. What about the one that's staging? Yeah, or the one that's animating the Incredibles. Awesome. It's just one animate.
Buzz, I think the video that you shared just now is a behind the scenes look at how Pixar artists do their jobs. Okay, we're unable to hear you. We are unable to hear you.
Yep. Is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So sorry for the audio a little bit crackling. I'll use another method to share the video. But essentially what we have is different kind of jobs and different kind of roles and different kind of skill sets. So some people can draw, some people who don't draw can do lighting, can do rendering, can do modeling, and basically a typical project for animation can take anywhere between 200 people to maybe even 500 people to create, and that's essentially the scale of content creation for platforms such as animation for films and all that. Okay, I will share the files. For the next one, let's look at the game art. Watching the video.
Tech is just a medium. It's how you marry. It's how you build. It's how you so many things. City hit its own challenge. We were with brains and so involved. It's an outing. Snow and we have always changing tech. We get new consoles, different games will have different engines and different editors. We are going to create a procedural tools that's going to help us to create rivers and waterfalls. And you're starting to automate more and more and more things.
Now you can procedurally scale it or place it turned and all sorts of tricks with just one asset.
Technical artists are core player in a team when building a big open world now.
What we're focusing now is on creating really believable worlds that you can interact with. Giving life to that open world is still quite challenging, especially from a performance point of view.
If you like how technology evolve, if you really want to have a strong understanding of it and make better game, this job is a great opportunity to stay just in the middle, to have a look at everything and to try to make things better every day.
Next, we'll have the game design. Is a specific field that only exists in games. It's basically a mixture of human psychology, user design or user experience design, and other factors. But here's sort of a brief what game designer do.
The word level design is such a generic term. Under the level design itself, there are many more tasks.
We're realizing the environment, not only from kind of an emotional, fictional standpoint, but also from a gaming standpoint.
On utilise le moteur de jeu tous les jours avec des outils très variés, que ce soit pour faire de l'environnement, l'animation, le caractère ou créer des missions.
I'm a gamer myself and I know what to expect to have fun with a game, and by bringing that mindset to design, it really helps being able to push the design even further.
On a plusieurs choses pour augmenter le fun. On va faire en sorte de rythmer le jeu, en fait. Ça se traduit par la difficulté. Après, en termes de variété, pareil, on va proposer des types d'interactions différentes. Des passages plus rapides à certains endroits, des passages qui demandent plus de réflexion à d'autres. Et du coup, on va varier comme ça le type d'interaction que le joueur aura pris le niveau.
It's like we are communicating with the player. I create something, you
The notion of open world is evolving. It's maybe getting a little broader in scope. And I think that player expectation is ultimately more and more freedom.
if you can get the player to walk around, see the small little detail that I put in, it's fun.
We also want to make sure that we're providing content that's logical to the world. But all the while, we need to make sure that that open world is supporting the core gameplay.
Comment orienter le joueur dans ses actions pour lui permettre d'utiliser ce monde au maximum.
Being a designer, it's really about knowing how to be creative with what you have. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I worked on a mission. You had to infiltrate the Tower of London to assassinate a female Templar.
Have a target, you have to kill someone. The balloon mission is something that is a little different. They want to add the romantic aspect into the gameplay.
Sur le mobile, comme les niveaux sont très courts, ça permet de travailler seul sur un niveau en fait. On n'est pas restreint à une seule tâche et on produit tout de A à Z sur ce niveau-là.
Je travaille avec énormément de personnes, aussi bien des GPP, des animateurs, des game designers, que des graphistes. J'essaye d'avoir une vision 360 de l'ensemble du jeu. Ça reste difficile car dans un open world, c'est plutôt gros. C'est vrai que la solution, c'est la communication entre les équipes.
Strong tech background helps you hit the ground running, but it doesn't mean you cannot learn job. The tools empower me as a designer to know what I can do in the game.
Here, we're working with Snowdrop, which is a next-gen engine. Very quickly take rough idea, implement it, and have put a pad in somebody's hands and say, what do you think?
Designing is a very iterative process. You kind of have a high-level vision and then decide, okay, let's lay down the foundation for it. And eventually you reach a point where you have cinematics, the great art, the lighting, and that all comes together.
If you're interested in working on projects that don't compromise quality and go all in on making a full experience, I think Ubisoft is exactly that place.
Okay, I'm trying to stop sharing the video and sharing back the slide. Disable this.
Yeah, so audience, yeah, we apologize for the technical glitches in the slot today, but I believe Buzz is trying to fix the problem. So Buzz, maybe you could also copy paste the YouTube link into the chat.
Yep.
And our team here will also paste the link to the live streaming, our YouTube live streaming, because we have received some comments that they are not able to see the video when it's streaming live.
Yep.
Okay, so let's try this. You're trying a different method now, this time?
Yep. So I'll be sharing and I'll be voicing over.
That'll be great.
Okay.
So the video that you're going to share, what are the points that students, our audience should be looking out for?
Yeah, specifically for games itself, there are three main fields. So the first two that I've shared earlier was actually game art and the game design. And then the third one is actually game programming. The uniqueness about the game industry itself, it mix of different skill set coming from technical, from game programming, and artistic from game art. And also there's a game design, which is a portion of more like user experience, psychology, understanding history and all that. So we'll push through for the next video and I will voice over it instead. Yep. So for this is actually gameplay programming. I hope the video works now.
Kind of this perfect hub between
So the speaker is, there's actually a subtitle down there, but the speaker is basically saying there's the job of a gameplay programmer is trying to figure out how to make the player interact with the games. Yep.
And transform the player's input into gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, so basically the gameplay programmer, their job is to make the controller works with the gameplay that intended for the game.
You take for granted over human. every single one of these we have to meticulously put in and create.
So before even getting down to working on something, say in the engine, we do so much research. If we were working on the climbing system, we would actually go to say like climbing gyms to try and come up with a design that makes sense and really understanding what the characters on screen should be doing.
Our relationship with game designers is, it's really symbiotic.
So game programmers have to work closely with the game designers because the design has to be implemented in programming, translated to code.
Into reality, to physical game. Thing that the programmer does is they have a far greater grasp on what's technically possible. Designers inspire programmers to push those limits further than they would have expected as well.
It's my responsibility to start learning all the different areas of game development and working with those experts to seeing an AI and game support that.
Or at the beginning of the project, you want to basically only lots of ideas going around.
So as part of programming, you can do AI, artificial intelligence, where you have to design and implement functionality and behavior of player, non-player character in the game.
My role is to actually basic foundation of it so that designers can build components in the meta system.
A gameplay programmer's work is basically connecting systems together to make up the entire world, the interactions with the player, the events.
So if you play any game, you can imagine every single button, every interaction that you can do in the games are actually programmed by the game programmer. So if you can open a door, you can drive a car, you can jump, you can do whatever in the game. It has to be implemented, and there's a gameplay programmer behind there that works with the game designers and assets from the great game art to integrate together.
Characters in Assassin's Creed unit. One of the things
so in the case of Assassin's Creed, they try to push the AI behavior, so you can see the character kind of like have a sense of the environment. When they run around, they can see the crowd, they can avoid the environment and all that.
Are doing takes a lot of creativity and innovation. That makes it a constant challenge.
Yep. So let's move to the next slide. So between these three kind of role, essentially what we have is an open workplace culture. So you can see the offices of all these spaces. There's a lot of open co-working. There's less partition. There's not much rooms because game developer, they kind of work. They just wear their headset, but they can focus and work collaboratively with the colleagues. And there's a lot of discussion area with whiteboards. They always have something to brainstorm, sketch, discuss about. So they tend to use a lot of whiteboards. As you can see as well, casual dress code. Also in the digital creative content industry, typically the dress code are pretty casual. There's mostly flat management hierarchy because, of course, there still be bosses, but essentially everyone is involved to create the same product. So essentially, there's going to be a lot more flat management hierarchy, and there's a lot of creative and fun activities such as brainstorming, jamming, and playing, and it's as well, because that's how the companies and these creators get to create the content. So here's an example of the skill sets that's required if you want to join the games industry. The number one thing is passion. It is a necessity to join the industry because it's not easy. But if you ask me, passion alone is not enough because every other applicants, every other graduates that want to join this industry, they are passionate as well. The reason why passion is important because through passion, you can endure and create a discipline to do problem solving, to do critical thinking, to be creative and imaginative, to create content, to be communicative in your work, and create a good teamwork, have a good discipline. And of course, you need to have a certain competency and specific skill set because in the digital creative industry, there tend to be a specific job role for everything. For example, in animation, you have animator, you have modeler, you have background artists, you have layout artists. In game industry, you have, even between the three, there's a lot more as well. On top of that, it is strongly recommended for you to actually have non-work related hobby ataupun minat yang lain. Sebab kalau tak ada minat yang lain ni, it's actually not helpful, because kalau you hidup hanya main game je and you want to be game developer, your skill set main game tu is not going to be as strong as, contohnya you nak jadi animator, you nak animate karakter, tapi you sebenarnya buat silat, buat taekwondo, buat judo or any kind of martial art, and then you dapat hired kerja dengan Capcom untuk buat Street Fighter contohnya. As an animator yang buat martial art ni, you will understand better how body move, how character, how force work, how punches work, how kick work. So when you animate character dalam game fighting contohnya Street Fighter, you definitely will be a better animator daripada orang yang tak pernah buat martial art. So which is why it's very important to have other hobby, main gitar ke, buat music ke, rock climbing ke, collect stamp ke, whatever. It's going to help you to improve and bring that value into dalam your creative work dalam game industry dan juga animation industry. Contoh, this one is quite detailed. Kalau nak tengok ni memang banyak position dalam animation industry. So you can see there's a lot of career option. Daripada 2D-nya, on the left, a lot of 2D jobs untuk animator, there's computer drawn, there's also hand drawn, there's also layout artist, there's in-betweener, there's roto artist, digital painter, and in the middle, there's a lot more of the 3D work where you talk about the animator, the CG modeler that do character model in 3D. You have the key animator, model maker, head of the boss of it, layout artist, lighting technical director. And on the right is a lot of these miscellaneous role like production assistant, production designer, and if you cannot model, you cannot draw, you can still be part of the creative industry. And these people, essentially, it's crucial to make sure that the project is completed on time, on budget. And that's all the kind of role that you can see in animation. And there's more from the link below that. Yep. This is games. So as I mentioned, games. Yeah.
Sorry, Bas, can you just go to the previous slide?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question here. So usually as a fresh grad, where would which career option would be which one would they join usually?
Yeah.
Is it based on their skill sets, or is it based on when they go for an interview, how does it happen? How does it work?
So generally, what will happen is that all this role, you will have a junior level. For example, if you want to be, you are someone who likes to draw background, right? So you can become a part of the digital painter. Then your role will be junior digital painter because you're a junior. And if you like to draw or to do animation, hand drawn, then you can join 2D hand drawn animation. And if you like to do 3D model, then your CG modeler role is something that you can go for. And obviously, there will be a junior and senior role as well, and lead role for each one of these title. Depend on the size of the company and the need of the company. But essentially, all this job, you can start probably except with the head and the director and supervisor. Those are like senior leadership, because those are more managerial role based on the specific skill set that you can start with. But you can definitely start as from animation, and after maybe 5-10 years, you can move into a directorial role or supervisor role, right? Yeah, so pretty much you can start from anywhere. Yeah. So for games, as I mentioned, there's sort of like 3 fields. So there's like game art, game design, and game technology. And here on the left, you can see there's different skill sets. So the game art is quite similar to the animation, but there's a bit different in terms of games are real time. So a lot of optimization has to happen in games comparative to animation, which is pre-rendered typically. So in this case, we're talking about like there's 3D, there's 2D jobs, and there's also concept artists, and on the middle that we actually have game design, which is a unique role that don't typically exist anywhere else in other industry except games. We talk about game designer, level designer as per the video I'll share again later. And we have QA tester, content designer, system game writer or narrative designer. And we talk about the mobile market. We have monetization specialist, game producer, and creative director as well. In the game technology, typically you'll start as a game or gameplay programmer. As the video shared earlier, you implement all the functionality in the games, and as you move through experience, you can be specialized in specific technology domain, such as web or server programmer. We talk about tools programmer, AI programmer, and also maybe AI, UI, or network programmer. And there's also graphics, physics, audio. All that is actually part of the game technology job scope. Yeah. And this is specifically for the most common jobs in most companies that make games, right? But beyond that, game industry is such a huge industry that not all game companies actually create games, but they be part of the industry in one way or another. So there's also this not so common, but it's becoming more popular nowadays. So you can become a game journalist, you can become an audio designer to create music or sound effects for games. You can become a YouTuber, right? To create content for live streaming and all that. And you can, I don't know, become a translator. You can become a board game designer, and a lot of that. And of course, if you have a lot of money, you can be a CEO of a game company. Of course, right? So there's a lot of sectors growing: gamification, esports, and all this industry are part of the bigger umbrella of game industry, and not just game development roles. So we've shown videos earlier, and a lot of videos shared about the big companies in the world, Pixar, Ubisoft. These are big brand names globally. The question is that what's available in Malaysia, right? What kind of job can I get? What kind of company that we have in Malaysia that I can join and apply for either internship or a full-time job? So this is some of the statistics that we can share in terms of the IPs that have been created in Malaysia for animation industry. So there's more than 64 homegrown IP that in 2019, the export number is above 170 million. And more than 120 countries penetrated. Our content are being broadcasted to 3/4 of the world, right? So that's really, really encouraging. And if you see, there's a lot, some of this you'll be very familiar, Agent Ali, Upin Ipin, Bobo Boy, but there's also a lot that you probably don't know is actually made in Malaysia, because what happens is that a lot of this company export it to Cartoon Network, to Disney, to Nickelodeon and all that. And what happens that then our broadcasters in Malaysia will import it back, uh, sort of like as a content, and then we will watch it, but we didn't know it's actually made in Malaysia. So there's a lot of those as well, such as Hogi, Organimals, Harry and Bunny, Super Striker, and all that as well. Kuku Harajuku as well. So it's very interesting to show that there's a lot of IPs coming from Malaysian creators. So 2019 was a really interesting year. It's it's pre-pandemic where the film industry was booming, and three of the largest box office in Malaysia in 2019 are actually our animated films, local IP, locally created, and it breaks the box office. And it's so interesting that out of they contribute about almost 90 million to the total box office for films in 2019, and it shows that the Malaysian population love this animated content and animated IP, and it's a household name. Every kids know these characters, and that's where we see a long-term view where the kids in Malaysia now don't only grow with Ultraman, with Ben 10, with Transformers, right? They grow up with Malaysian IP itself. So there's a lot of value in terms of culture, heritage, and familiarities as we can infuse into this content that our creators create. So that's where we see moving forward. Memang best lah kalau we have our own IP yang sepopular Disney, sepopular Pixar, and all that. So I think our companies are doing great. There's a lot more coming untuk this year. Mecha Mato is coming up, Agent Ali, and also Didi and Friends and all that as well. So what are the types of company? Animation ni, company ni macam mana? So ada, usually a lot of companies does a very different thing. Tapi boleh kata you can actually simplify kepada the kind of output that they do. So banyak company sama ada dia fokus kepada short animation, dia buat lower than 7 minutes punya video, atau dia fokus kepada TV series animation, maknanya dia buat 11 to 22 minutes format yang keluar kat TV selalunya. and dia boleh buat feature film. So feature film ni akan keluar dekat cinema, dekat Pawagam. And also there's a lot of sector yang kita tak nampak, but it's actually part of the industry. It's actually the TV commercial. Contohnya masa 2020, kalau ingat video-video ataupun commercial raya daripada Malaysia, mostly masa tu keluar bulan Jun kan, banyaknya animation. Petronas punya animation. Sebab apa? Sebab masa tu real shooting live actors ni tak boleh. Kan masa tu MCO first, so tak boleh shooting live actors, pelakon tak boleh shooting. So all these agencies actually created animation for their raya video, and that's something that I think is going to be more common, akan lagi-lagi popular. And there's also VFX industry yang Malaysia involved as well, working on IP such as Life of Pi and more than that. Yep. Since some of the animation companies in Malaysia, we're going to go through this quickly.
So I think this list would be useful for students who are looking out for internship opportunities, and also for lecturers who are watching this, companies that you would actually maybe you might want to contact them to get them to collaborate with you. Yeah, I think this is a very extensive list. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Bas.
Yep. So as you can see from the video, is that there's a lot of different kind of company, and it provides sort of a background what kind of the company does in terms of visual effects, animated movie, animated series, or they focus on 2D, or they focus on 3D, and a lot of that as well. So the Malaysian industry has been growing rapidly in the last 10 years or so, and I think there's a lot of future in the industry, especially with Malaysian doing works for global market. In terms of time, I'm just going to proceed to the next part. So Malaysian industry is a bit younger than animation. Our sang kancil is almost, I think, more than 30 years old. And Malaysian industry is a bit younger. But Malaysian have had success story in the last few years. So we have Malaysian companies, Malaysian talent works on these IPs such as Street Fighter, Gears of War, and also Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man. These are the top titles in the different platforms that it exists. We have our own local indie studios that actually work on their own IP and have won awards in South Asia, internationally in Japan, in US as well. We have a lot of top international game companies coming down to South Asia setting up. I'll share a bit more on that, but essentially it shows that the studios are coming because they believe there's a lot of talent in Malaysia, and that's where job opportunity and internship opportunity will come for you, because this company bring in with a vast experience and opportunity to work on the best project globally. We also have local IPs created by local creators that actually will go out, and thankfully for the past few years, it has been in multi-platforms such as Steam, Epic Game Store, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox. We also have few of our IPs that actually get selected as part of the top 100 games that was launched together with Apple Arcade. And also we had exclusive deals for No Straight Road for the Epic Game Store, which is a very, very rare thing to happen for Malaysia, but we're very happy this is possible now because of visibility of what Malaysian companies and talent can do. So this is the type of game companies. So there are indie game studio ni kecil, dia 1 hingga 10 orang, they are very small, they make their own game. Most of the game takes about 6 months to a year maybe to make. Uh, a mid-size game studio is a bit bigger, between 10 to 100 packs. And art production studio, they don't make games in terms of game design and programming, but they focus on art. And they tend to be quite big. They do their scale between 30 to 300 packs, and they make a lot of the top IPs in the world, such as Blizzard's game, Warcraft, Diablo, and all that. Uh, there's also game publisher. They don't make games, but they help to sell game. So kalau yang pernah main game Ragnarok tu, tahulah publisher daripada yang brought in this game that is import from overseas, tapi they sell it in Malaysia as well. So large game studio is really the one that makes the full game, the size between 100 hingga 500 orang. So let's take a look at the list a bit. This is some of the list of the indie game studio kat Malaysia. So kalau tengok ni, there's a lot. This is the short list. I think there's about more than 30 to 50 indie game studio in Malaysia that make their own games. And there's a mid-sized game studio.
Sorry, Abbas. So how are these game studios surviving? I mean, during this pandemic?
Yep. So I think the unique thing is about the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic increased consumption for games content and media content, especially like Netflix, animation, YouTube, and also games. So company has seen some growth rather than less consumption. So this actually the pandemic has been helpful for the company to grow. The only problem is that they have to learn how to adapt to work from home environment, because as the MCO was implemented, dia orang kena balik rumah, bawa komputer untuk bawa ke rumah, sebab komputer dekat office usually more powerful daripada kat rumah. So dia kena bawa balik, and ada software and license semua tu. So they have to bring back home, set up dekat rumah, make sure kalau they work on private or PNC project, dia orang tak boleh, adik-adik tak boleh tengok the screen. They have to make sure tak boleh leak and all that, because in the game and animation industry, all this sensitive lah. Dia tak nak leak kalau what's the next IP, apa the next one kan. So a lot of these companies are doing well. Thankfully, we have one company that have made more than $1 million revenue, and it's a team of one Malaysian, a couple of freelancers online. But it's a small team, but they can actually achieve $1 million sales on Steam platform, and we are very happy for their success. So this is some of the game companies that we have in the mid-sized game studio. This is some of the big art production studio. So if you see it here, Bandai Namco Studio, Lemon Sky, Patch Republic, Streamline, Codemasters, and more. So some of these are international MNC, multinational company yang datang kat Malaysia. Contohnya Bandai Namco Studios is actually from Japan. They are among the largest Japan game company in the world, in Japan. So you can actually check them out. They are also based in Malaysia, and they're also hiring. And there's a lot of our local heroes as well here. Game publisher, so this is something yang siapa main local game atau locally released game tu mungkin familiar. Asiasoft, CIB, Forest, Cubinet, Garena, all these are the publishers that bring in games either locally or imported to market in Malaysia lah. Untuk large game studios, we have not reached the status of the 100 packs and above yet, but around the region we have a few. Ubisoft in Singapore, Koei Tecmo, Tosei in Philippines, and K-Lab, and also DNA in Vietnam. But the good news is that because our industry is growing rapidly, in 2019 and early 2020, there's 3 major studios that set up in Malaysia. Of course, they are growing and they're hiring rapidly. And by the time, I think by the end of pandemic or early next year, there will be a 100-man studio for most of them. So they actually make games such as Larian makes Baldur's Gate 3, which is a very well-known title in the world. And we also have Sony, which will open development office in Malaysia. They're also hiring to work on the AAA titles under the PlayStation brand. And we have Double 11, which is a UK studios yang hire untuk work on their IPs and partnership that they have, such as Minecraft Dungeon and all that. So this is a really interesting opportunity yang shows that the world is having confidence in Malaysian talent. So it's up to us to rise to the occasion untuk meet this demand of jobs and opportunity.
In a world that restricts your imagination,
I probably skip this part. So I'll just go straight to the last part of the presentation. I'll just share a bit more of what MDEC digital creative content programs for 2021, so that you can take benefit and use this for your own advantage. So MDEC does a lot of programs. Our team does very different thing, from animation, games, from business development to talent development and all that. But I'll share briefly as much as I can. You can find out more info on MDEC official website. So this is the most recent program that we have, Prisma. So Prisma is essentially a package ransangan for industry creative, for the Malaysian industry. And here's actually the all the programs that we have. So we have penstreaman. So you want to create your own stream content, you can actually apply here. We have EDP, which is a training program that you can online training, you can join, you can apply. And there's also pemasaran or virtual buys fly in, where you can actually network and meet up with investors or broadcasters to license and publish your IP. Ada grant, kita ada grant untuk up to 50,000 untuk funding a new IP under DCG Prisma. Dan kita untuk company yang dah exist also, kita ada program bantuan infrastructure atau batik untuk teknologi dalam kandungan digital. So semua ni boleh dilayari di website mdec.my/prisma. And kalau nak apply kena cepat sebab yang ni available I think until August je. So all these are the most recent lah. So this is some other programs that we have. Level Up at School. So that's the what it does actually is a school training program for secondary. So I'm just gonna skip that part and move straight to Multi-Maker Fair. So this one is actually was a physical event, but for this year it will be digital still because of the pandemic. But essentially what it does is that it's actually a session where kids showcase their work in digital content. So we were part of it. So budak-budak sekolah, primary, secondary, boleh pergi test VR, boleh banyak lah benda-benda kan.
I brought my daughter to for the Maker Fair in 2019, and
Yep.
she had so much of fun. Yeah, she didn't want to come back. She wanted to come back the second day as well. Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, boleh buat robotik, boleh fly drone. There's a lot of different experience yang adik-adik boleh go through. Of course, this one is designed for K-12. Tapi kalau adik-adik semua yang dah dekat tertiary ni ada adik-adik kecil yang nak berminat, boleh bawa and join this year. This year will be digital. InsyaAllah next year will be physical again lah.
Okay. And actually own their, they actually build their own robotics and also their own, they even build their own Raspberry Pi.
Okay,
So then
I'm just gonna move to the next one.
Help with our ecosystem.
So the big upcoming event that I would like to share is actually my Digital Creativity Festival. So this is something that our team does. It's going to happen in September this year. So it's going to be virtual through PC platform or mobile platform. It's actually there's two parts of it. There's a business portion and there's a public community portion. So for the business, siapa yang nak masuk industri ni, ada banyak lah opportunity. Boleh tengok business connect, boleh tengok pergi IP pitch, boleh participate untuk creative conference ni untuk animation, dan juga Level Up KL ni untuk games. So untuk MDEC ni kita brandkan kreatif ni untuk animation, dan juga Level Up ni adalah untuk program-program games. Akan ada masterclass workshop dan juga banyak partners program lah untuk business event yang akan berlaku di bulan September. Dan selain daripada itu, selepas business event, kita akan buat public event. So public event ni akan ada virtual exhibition. So boleh download app atau game tu, boleh main game tu, dan boleh redeem, boleh masuk tournament, e-sport tournament, boleh tengok show, boleh apply untuk career, job, placement, internship, semua tu ada. Dan kita boleh tengok Malaysian IP kat situ yang kena showcase, dan boleh tengok industry awards dan banyak lagi lah. So this very exciting experience that you can see. So this is last year's punya kreatif. So banyaklah program-program training, program-program sharing daripada international speaker, daripada abroad. Kita buat secara live. Ada juga local heroes.
Buzz, I just want to share. I attended Creative in 2009, I think. And back in 2009, I was so used to, having conferences, yang, kita duduk secara formal environment and everything. But when I went for Creative, we had these bean bags and, I was allowed to wear t-shirt and jeans for a conference. I think that was like so mind-opening for me. And I did make a lot of, friends and networks that helped me, for me to organize events and collaborate on many things when I was working at College Communities Layang. So it was a very good experience actually, if you all can actually join these events, because the networking opportunities that comes really is so beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, 2009 is the first edition.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was there.
Cool.
And I even met. I remember one of the speakers then was the script writer for Avatar, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, and then you had people from Kung Fu Panda. The one who wrote the script for Kung Fu Panda. No, it was just a mind blowing experience in 2009, and it's so fresh in my memory. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely
Anyway,
we'll look
yeah.
forward
Over
for
to
you and the others to join as well. So just quickly sharing the Level Up KL, the games conference. I've shared the 2019 edition because it provides more of the what we do. When we do 2020, it's pivoted to digital, but we do game jams usually. So what happens is that game developers all over the world come to work together. So they actually pair up Malaysians and also regional participants like Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore to work together and make games. So they sleep very little and make games over 36 hours. There's a lot of free food, pizzas, and all that. But after that, they pitch their games, and we have international juries voting for their games. And we also organize a lot of workshops, and we work with partners such as Unity and Unreal, the technology partners, to do training. So there's a lot of participants who came and check out the session. So So we have a lot of international trainers who came and then share the knowledge. This is a game design workshop, how to make games with home item. We have our local expert as well to share the knowledge and all that. Yeah, we also have a business event where a lot of the business development people, the founders of the company, they actually meet up and discuss for possible partnership, collaboration, deals, and all that.
Many of our partners,
right?
we established the icons of the industry.
Yeah.
We also have big companies.
There's a lot of good speakers coming for the session.
Their dent in the universe.
Yeah. So the conference typically attract about 1,500 audience. So it's actually one of the biggest game conference in Southeast Asia. So there's a lot of attendees, usually house packed, full room. Yeah, we got a full support from our top management of MDEC because game industry is growing really, really fast. So that's something that is really, really interesting to push forward. We have keynote speakers talking about their latest IP that's not released yet. There's announcement and media session. So there's plenty of activities and we have booth, Malaysian content, regional content, speakers, panel session, speakers from Japan, esports, and many more. And we also have the awards, where basically we gave out the awards for the best South Asia games. And this was where the announcements of the PlayStation Studios setting up in Malaysia happened as well. And on top of that, we also do a consumer event in 2019. And this was held in KLCC. So those of you gamers out there, this is an event for you. You can come. We have worked with a lot of partners, Unify, big esports organizer. We have IP such as Marvel, bringing their Transformers collection and Marvel heroes and all that. So it's a big event with about almost 20,000 attendees. Of course, we are pivoting it digital for last year and this year, but you can definitely join and download the app for this year and then participate in all the activities that I shared earlier. We have local companies showcasing their game for playtests. There's game from Sarawak. There's cosplayers, of course. Malaysian IP setting up their booth. People playing games, trying out different games from the region. Local Malaysian companies, and more. So yeah, on top of that, we also have the C3, which I think is basically a funding program. So you can actually check out on MDEC's website for DC3. Specifically what I run, so we actually run what we call as the incubator program. So this is the program that I think Dr. Umar shared earlier. So we actually incubate companies, small and medium animation and game startups to collaborate and support their businesses. And essentially over the last few years, we've done a lot of activities at our incubation in Bangsa for games and also facilities in Cyberjaya for animation. So we hosted community events, workshop, talks, and all that at our facility as well. So this is some of the activities in Cyberjaya and some of the earlier history of how we got here for animation or our incubation program, essentially. So that's about it. I'm trying to catch time so that there's time for the next slot. So any question and answer, feel free to ask. I will check on the live chat and also on the chat, I believe. Yeah. But if you can follow us on Facebook for more info. That's Creative for Animation and Level Up KL for game industry. So you can definitely take a look at this.
Right. So thank you so much, Bas, for sharing. Let's see if there are any questions. It's already 10:16. Okay, if there are no questions, then maybe I would like to ask you, Bas, so based on your experience, what would your advice be for students who are watching this session on, if they want to join the animation industry or the games industry? Yeah. What would your best advice be? I mean, what do they do? What do they need to do from now?
Yep, the most important thing to join the digital creative content industry, animation and games and others as well, is to build your portfolio. So whatever the chance that you get to do your assignment, your projects, do it well, because that's going to be part of your compilation and your portfolio for you to apply your internship and all that. Results is good to be okay in the result, but most company, they look the result like CGPA as secondary, comparatively to the actual portfolio, because portfolio speaks 1,000 words. Because there are kids who are better at doing exams or doing answering exams and scoring in exams, but they are not as good in creating content. So at the end of the day, companies are hiring content creators, be it animator, be it game programmer, be it game designer, be it artists to draw, right? So all those are skill sets. So those are shown through portfolio. So my recommendation is to do your best in your assignment or any project that you have through your courses. That's number one. Number two, on top of that, what you should do is actually to do your own work outside of the school program. So if you have friends, you can try to make a game together. You can make a short animation together and try to push this content out to public and build it as part of your portfolio. If you are interested to draw robots, draw a lot of robots. If you like to draw cats, draw a series of 100 cats as emoticons. And all this will help you to showcase that you are passionate about your work. You're not just doing it for the assignment. Because the worst kind of applicants that company can get is that they only do creative content because it was an assignment in the school, right? Which means that as an animator, they never animate outside of the school assignment. So all their portfolio are only the school assignment, which is really sad. Because if you're going to do this for the next 10, 20 years of your life as a career, right? You have to have the passion to do things on your own. And that's something that I will encourage all students to actually start your semester break. You had a month, 2 months, 3 months. Spend a month to actually work together and actually make a content on your own, be it animation or games. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Berk. I think that's we are running out of time. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this session really benefited the students out there. So for those of you all who are watching this session, please follow the Facebook pages for Creative and Level Up KL, and please join their events online. So kepada peserta webinar, pastikan anda juga sudah menjawab borang maklum balas bagi sesi-sesi anda ikuti sebelum ini dan juga sesi-sesi yang akan datang. Okay, borang maklum balas boleh diisi http://bit.ly/track industry T huruf besar I huruf besar. So kita akan berjumpa lagi pada pukul 10.30 untuk slot seterusnya of new norms in the hospitality, in the services industry. So see you all. Thank you again, Bas. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.